Hello, I just finished this big journal. It's a big one. It's got 4 signatures. It's about 2 inches thick. Excuse me. So the original book that I got this cover from was called Adrift from the Sea of Life, written by C. McKnight Smith in 1891. The original size was actually about 8 by 10. So there's the full book was Drift, and then From is kind of hidden there, the Sea of Life. But I didn't want to make it that size. I wanted to make it a little smaller, so I actually took this book apart a couple of years ago and just set it aside. It was given to me by a coworker. She had some books she did not want, and she just said people could help themselves, and I saw this one, and I went and asked her. I said, "You sure you want to get rid of this book, because it's probably worth some money. It's certainly old, 1891." She said she just, she wanted me to have it. And so I said, okay, so I guess it was meant to be. And right now I kind of regretted, when I started working on it, that I took it apart, because it was such a beautiful book. So inside, the pages are just these gorgeous watercolor pictures and sketches. And so every other page is kind of a heavier material like this, with colored pictures and quotes. And the quotes are from lots of different poetry. Some are from the Bible, some are from Shakespeare. This is Longfellow. Some of these people I've never heard of. Author unknown. Isn't it gorgeous? Love the colors. And then in between are pages that just are a little bit thinner material, a little sketchier, but still, just beautiful drawings on every one. So once I had already taken it apart, of course my plan was to actually fold these pages in half, but I realized that wasn't going to work because the pages are very fragile and brittle, so I had to come up with a solution for that, which I'll show you. So I decided to really snazz it up and make a big charm for it. The ocean is one of my favorite themes, and I haven't really done an ocean journal, so I really had a lot of fun doing this one. And I've made this charm with abalone and sea glass, and here, this is an agate, a seagull, some coral, there's an octopus, I think there's a starfish, a mermaid, a pearl, some shells. And this actually is quite large, but it does come off, so if the person wanted to, they could just take this off, which is awkward in this position, but there, see, it just has a clasp on it with a swivel, so it goes every way. And so I'll just set this aside for now. So for the fastening the clasp, I used a button I made out of a seashell. I just drilled 2 holes in it and sewed that on, and then put a little chain here with a compass and a lighthouse, and just press on this and it just opens right up. There's an eyelet in the back, so that's where it's attached, and an eyelet right there, so that's where the charm goes. Okay, so let's take a look at it. So the cover was kind of that dull color. And by the way, I did rebuild the spine too. If you looked at the original book again, the spine was not very wide. And of course, I cut it apart with my X-Acto knife. I just kept cutting, over and over and over again until I finally cut through, because it's just basically heavy chipboard. So I did make a new spine for it. I kind of like this fabric. It just has a nautical look to it. And this is the same fabric, but this is tea stained, which I thought went well with the cover because it's all such soft colors. And then for the end paper, I chose this paper, which is some hand-painted paper that I get from a local person, local artist. So let's see if I'm in the center here because it is kind of big. So I chose 4 pages from the original book to begin each of the 4 signatures, and the signatures, so they start with a page from the book, and they end with a page from the book, but a different page. And so I needed a way to attach them. I didn't even really want to sew through this paper, so what I did was I used this kind of handmade paper. It's got a lot of fibers in it. It's very strong but light, and it worked perfectly. I just glued it on. And this actually was originally white, so I got some spray inks and some tea, and I made them colors that match the book better. So, first signature, an osprey sails with wings spread wide, down slanting from his even flight. And this is, so I've done some things with these jellyfish designs that are printed on a overhead projector film. And this was a big one, which I thought maybe would work here, and it did. This book is about 8 by 8 and 2 inches thick. So the page size was kind of an issue because I wanted to have most of the pages at least go, end to end across. So I did a little piecing and sewing, and that's what I did there. And I went through my postage stamps and found everything that was nautical and used those in here. And also my stamps. So this is a page from a National Geographic book about fish, and it has such beautiful watercolor illustrations. I loved them. I loved the colors of them. On this page, because there was, just text down here, I made this pocket, and then I made another little pocket that looks like a net. So in the back pocket is one of my sister's paintings. It's one of my favorite ones, and of course it's a fishing boats. Our dad was a fisherman, so that goes back there. And then this little fish that I cut from the book, I mounted it onto some paper, a book page. The book is The Fisherman and His Soul, so I thought that really went well there, and it kind of goes right here in the net. Some more beautiful pictures from that book. Here I did a little piecing, and this part tore off, so I just put a little patch there. And this is some of that same kind of paper here, but I used it to just as a background. And this is from a different book. Made a little pocket out of that picture, and inside is a wildlife card with a sponge. And this is from Graphics Fairy. It's, a postcard with some mermaids on it. And I just put it on some actual paper from the original book. I had some scraps left over since I did cut those pages down. Just sewed that on there. On the back is one of those posters I have. I have a set of them, and they're artwork from Palau, which is an island in the Pacific, I believe. So I put a part of that poster on the back there. And another book I used a lot was the Child's Book of Seashells. Has some beautiful illustrations in it. This one has says to Tim, Christmas 1955. So it's a pretty old book. So here's just some hand-colored paper I made. I'm thinking about maybe doing a tutorial on it. I took some bleeding tissue, which is it's tissue paper, not regular tissue paper, but a tissue paper that actually is meant to be gotten wet, and then the colors bleed out. You can get it at an art supply store. So I colored a lot of paper with it, and I thought it came out nice, and I used some in here. And some of my spray stenciling. And I had a couple of pieces of scrapbook paper that were nautical, but I didn't have much, so most of the paper I had to come up with myself. Page from an adult coloring book. There's some more of that light paper, handmade paper. This is from the National Geographic book. And then I added these pictures here at the bottom. I went to my local visitor center and picked up some brochures. And one of them had just the most beautiful pictures in it. And I used a lot of them in this book. All hand-painted pictures of wildlife around our area. And this is from an old geography book, the Hawaiian Islands. Did a lot of stitching to stitch pages together to make them fit this book because of the size of it being a little different. And that's a print on tissue paper that I think I got from Graphics Fairy. This is one of the same images that I used on the jellyfish thing. So yeah, I have the set of them also. There's some of them are on the overhead projector film and some are on paper. So I just printed this one on coffee stained paper and turned it into a pocket. And this is a picture of Bandon, where I live, done by a local photographer. I've almost always lived by the ocean. I just love the ocean. This was from one of the visitor center brochures. We have tufted puffins, and we have these birds here too. And so I just kind of glued this in. It's some cormorants. Another page from the geography book. This is a print of a fish on some handmade paper from Nepal. So here I made a pocket out of some of that homemade paper, handmade paper. It's light but very strong because it has all those fibers in it. So inside we have a Christmas card with a sailing ship on it. And just a little scrap of leftover page pieces from the original book with some stamping stitched on there. And a playing card with some seashells on it. Another postage stamp with I think it's a buoy, not a lighthouse. And then here's a little pocket with a little tiny booklet I made. It's a little mini journal. And just has this string here to hold it together. A little eyelet. And then it has a tiny little tag here with some seagulls on it. And just some stamping. There's a postage stamp. A little vellum fish. A little seashell. Let your dreams be your wings and your heart be your guide. England Equipment Company. This is a store that sells a lot of marine supplies for fishermen. Little scraps. Sand dollar. And another little tag in the back. I had hoped this book would not have gator mouth, but it ended up having it after all. I had so many things I wanted to put in it. Just a fussy cut seashell there. Some hermit crabs. It's a pocket made out of a little postcard I got from Graphics Fairy with another card with a sailing ship on it. Just a hello card. And a barnacle. And a page from a field guide on seashells. And this beautiful vintage sunset picture from Graphics Fairy. There's the rest of that poster. And in this side, there is a postcard. It says Florida Silver Springs. Here I made just a little extra writing space. It's a little notepad. I kind of stitched the top very crudely. Excuse me. So it just has some scraps of paper inside for writing. And I added some extra writing paper there. Some paper ruffle on both sides. And this image from a magazine. And of course, I've been looking at my old Nick Bantock books, and if you've ever looked at his books, like the Griffin and Sabine books, there's always these envelopes that are attached to pages with letters inside. So I decided to put envelopes in here, made out of parchment paper. This is actually one of my paintings I did a long time ago of a seagull. And on the back, it's just attached to a little, I don't know, some kind of a card that I tea stained. And then this sticker that I got at the visitor center. So that's one of the original pages, and so is this. Isn't that a gorgeous painting? This time there's, I think they're like cargo ships, and this one's in a stormy sea. A page from a book with a nice big wave in it. Some microscopic ocean plant animals. Some more of that painted paper I did with the bleeding tissue. Puffin, we have those here in Bandon. I added some little seashells to the bottom of this page. And this is a tape transfer made with packing tape. You just find a really nice picture that you like and really burnish the packing tape down, and then take it to the water and just basically rub off all the back of the paper, and you end up with a kind of a transparent picture. So I kind of picked up a little notepad of these letter cards, and I did tea stain this one. So basically you write your letter here, and you just, these have that, you know, they're gummed, so you just fold it up like this, and you can send it in the mail. So I have it more like this, so I can just put it here. And with a snow snag paper clip. Some stitching here to make this page a little bit bigger. This is a page from an old encyclopedia. And another pocket made with some of that lightweight paper. And then I put some tea-stained parchment on the back, and then just did a lot of stitching. Then I made a little ruffle out of this this other paper like this. And in here so this is a postcard from France. It's interesting how they put the stamps on the front like that. It says Paris. I think the date is August 19th, 2009, excuse me. It's written in French. And Marilyn Monroe. And a lady sitting on a rock. She's not a mermaid, but looks like she's waiting for her sailor to come home. So these are all 3 ladies of the sea. Another page from the National Geographic book with some pictures from the Visitor Center brochure, Fussy Cat on there. More from the brochure. These are common Muirs. And so this is a pocket I made out of some tea-stained paper with microscopic sea life on it. And here is a great blue heron. And then just a scrap of old book page with some stamping stitched on. And a page from the field guide. So the cover of this book is pretty dull, but inside it's very colorful. This is from another book I have called Planet Ocean, which is just all these prehistoric fish and animals and plants from like the Jurassic era. Here's another one of my sister's paintings. It's one of my favorites, of a fishing boat, and part of a page from the original book, which could be used as a journaling card. And on this side, this is a page from one of the Walter Foster books on painting seascapes. A postcard with some tufted puffins, and a page from the old encyclopedia. This is also from the original book, and a postcard from a cruise ship out of Copenhagen, 1957. Hand-painted paper made by a local person. So this pocket has a little tuck spot in front with a little playing card, 2 playing cards, shark, no, that's a dolphin, and a crab, and just a little scrap of paper with a little sailing boat on there, and then a piece of one of the pages from the original book with a stamp on it that I stitched down. Just added some of my colored tissue onto this page just to make it a little more interesting. Extra writing space glued on there. Like that picture, which I stitched it down. Another picture from the encyclopedia, as is this one. And this is a postcard of a seagull, and this is a guy in a diving suit that I cut out of a catalog and just kind of made this little collage tag. Some more of that poster from Palau. It's a dolphin. Glued some extra writing space here with this tree stamp, which I think looks like coral. So in this pocket, it's just a little flashcard on marine mammals and a botanical print of some seashells and a fishing boat. So here's another envelope, and this one has a parrotfish and just a piece of a picture from the Walter Foster book, which I stitched onto some a page from another different book. It had some black pages in it. So you can see here, I just glued that down, and it really strengthened these pages and made them be able to still turn pretty easily. So here's the third signature. This was from Graphics Fairy. And there's one of my no snag paper clips with another piece of one of the Walter Foster pictures from one of his books. And this came from a different book, Christopher Columbus. He's as a child looking out at the sea. This is packing tape transfer. Some stamping. I thought that kind of looked like seaweed. The Owl and the Pussycat. Ladies' vintage bathing apparel. Some more stitched together pages. Just cut out this from the big shell book that I have. And here I actually had a little tear in the page, so I did a little patch with some tissue paper. And this is just stapled down. It's a fussy cut seashell with some stamping. I like this picture, so colorful. So here's a little pocket I made out of some tissue paper. It has a playing card with a big giant shell from the Bahamas, and one of my little journal cards, and a bookmark with a snowy plover. That's a cool picture of jellyfish. So here is an uptuck with a sailboat, and then these fishermen, they found Lifebuoy soap on the beach. This is actually a replica of an old one. Some fishing boats. I think these are maybe from Scandinavia. And another one of those prints from a local photographer of our beach. There's a puffin swimming. It's a fish with its mouth open. Another pocket. This one has, so here's a little game card with a shark and a miniature postcard, Florida. And this is an old postcard. Came from Canada. Hands Across the Sea. So I thought the picture really, this very much from the era of this original book, so that goes good with it. And some whales on a little animal educational card. So I did fussy cut those fish and just glued them on here to make that page a little more colorful. There's a jellyfish I cut out. I didn't want to cover this one up. And this is actually, it's about trading across the sea, so it's like shipping things that people use from one country to another, in big freight belt or cargo vessels. And I love these little dolls having their tea party. A lighthouse, a foghorn, a light ship. So here's a little uptuck with a picture of an abalone. And on this side, one of my little journal cards I made from a scrap of the original book. This is a little envelope. I'm not going to open it up. It just has a little piece of paper with some pictures of fish on it. It's clipped on here. Discovered this page, I don't even know what book it came from, but Haven't we all had that experience trying to dig down to China? So here's a little girl doing it on the beach. And then I just attached some writing paper underneath. Very, very grungy book pages. I stitched this on top of this other picture just to cover up the writing part. And this envelope has one of the Walter Foster paintings stitched onto some book page and a harbor seal, or California sea lion, actually. We have lots of those too. And the last signature says Homeward Bound. I think this was at the end of the book. A picture from the Oregon Coast magazine. Some fish being captured by jellyfish. A bunch of seashells I fussy cut. This is vellum, little vellum die cuts that I bought. Or actually, my sister bought. She had a bunch of stuff that she gave me, and this was with it. Some very pretty light paper with sparklies in it. There's a fussy cut nautilus shell on this page. And this pocket here with a crab. And inside is a old postcard with some boats. Little Dutch girls playing where the ocean meets the continent. I guess that's how they would dress. And a mermaid. Some sheet music. I think it's the beach at Bali Bali. On the beach at Bali Bali. Some fishermen. This is from a little travel brochure I have for Monterey, California. Has a little map here of Monterey and vicinity. And this pocket's made from some vellum map paper. So in the front part is just a little tuck, and it has a book plate with a ship on it and the uniform of a naval admiral during the Civil War. And then this old postcard, what we saw at Catalina, deep sea diver. His swimsuit, they had to have tops on him, I guess. Stamping on book page. This was actually an envelope made out of a calendar page that was given to me by someone. When I got it from her, the size of it wouldn't actually fit in this book, but I wanted to use it, so I took it apart and remade it into a different size. So it has some stitching here to kind of cover up where it was folded previously. But it worked out great, and then I lined the inside with some paper so that, you wouldn't see the calendar part. And another photograph from a local photographer of a lighthouse. I just love this painting. So I covered up like the folds and where there was some glue, just kind of covered it up with different things. Worked out pretty well. This is that hotel in Monterey, the room plans. Basically, you got a room, but the bathrooms were here, so this whole wing had to share that bathroom. This wing had to share that bathroom. Yeah. Didn't have private baths. Some fishermen. A skate, which is very good fish to eat if you like white fish. That one's a delicious one. So this is a chart with all the salt and freshwater fish. And inside is a cod, which is actually on this chart. It's a very good fish to eat also. And an old postcard, La vie à la mer, which is the life of the sea, I think, in French. And so this is all written in French, so I'm not sure what it all says. But I just like this old fisherman with his pipe. There it is, his pipe right there. Look at his rumpled raincoat. That's how my dad didn't smoke a pipe, but this is kind of how he looked when he was out fishing. So I've just made a little tuck spot for this sailboat. It's on a piece of map page. So the 2 vellum stickers and then one of my things printed on overhead transparency. It just fits right in there. Another pocket with a game card and a little journaling card I made with some stamping on fabric. Some more of that sparkly paper. This could actually be a tuck spot, and I didn't tuck anything in there. The book was already getting so fat. And last envelope. There's some Tim Holtz vellum around this picture of this lady standing on the beach. I actually have the original of this. This is a reproduction, but I like the way she looks standing on the beach, like she's really on top of it. And so I just put a little French stamp on the front so it would look like a French postcard. And that's it. So this book will be for sale. It includes this enormous charm here. And I think it's going to be $175. So my most expensive journal to date. But I feel like I really put a lot of time and a lot of thought into it, and I love the way it turned out. So there it is. Thanks for watching. Sorry it was so long.